part 3 of my Reese's style story about how a bunch of creators on TikTok took a diabetic medication to lose weight and caused it to go viral and then caused a national shortage. At least that's what you think happened. 2 things before we move forward. 1, go back and watch part 1 and 2, which is on this playlist. And 2, I'm about to tell you how Rosie Donald came on our podcast and blew it up. The podcast is called The Plus Sides. I'm going to put it right here. It's season 1, episode 13. Hashtag Rosie shows up. Now go do that and then come back. Save right there. Wasn't that good? Now I found Rosie on TikTok with all of us because she had been talking about Mounjaro and the food noise turning off. And people would even mention to her when she would go live. And she had followed some of the TikTok creators, but not me. So I decided I was going to try to get her attention. And the way that I was going to do that was to stitch one of her videos and have the community come in and just tag the crap out of her until it really rose above and she could see that we were making noise and wanting to get her attention. She duetted that video like I asked. And then she agreed to come on the podcast and didn't charge me a dime. Because that's who she is. The podcast has won awards because of that episode. It was that good. Again, go watch it. Save and come back. She's better than me. So the community, we are celebrating. The podcast finally reached over 1,000 on YouTube, which meant we could monetize. It doesn't mean much, but in YouTube world, but we could. And of course, I was making videos all over TikTok and asking everybody to stitch and duet all of the videos that she was making. I was making shorts and putting them all over TikTok. People were very, very excited. It really brought us together and united us again. Because the media and society were all trying to tear us apart. In my opinion. During this time. The July 4th holiday comes, and then I believe over 100 GLP-1 creators, including doctors, were suddenly banned without being able to even appeal by TikTok overnight. And we fought, with the doctors, attorneys, reaching out to TikTok every day, emailing them, but we couldn't do shit. We couldn't do anything. Nothing would work. At some point, someone in our community was able to get it on her radio show. That was the only media we could get to pick it up. And they, because they were media, were able to get a response from TikTok. And it was something about adhering to community guidelines or something, just some BS statement. I would say most people got their accounts back within 1 to 2 months. I remember one time hearing feedback that they said, you can't talk about weight loss and a diabetic medication. That was one of the things. But there were plenty of people that had diabetes that were actually making content about this that were banned. Some people never got their accounts back. But you know what they did? Because they have grit, because they have obesity, they just made another account and came back stronger. Now, when we all came back, some of us could continue to create and do shot day videos, while others of us were getting suppressed badly. And that made no sense because everything with TikTok is based on relevancy and engagement. And I'm sorry, but taking a diabetic medication to lose weight, relevancy, engagement. But people were squashed. So a lot of times we would make backup, but then we were like, they must be able to tell, it's the same IP and all these different things because even our backups, we would be suppressed. None of us could figure it out. There was this huge conspiracy theory, but we just kept going. In September of 2023, so a few months after this, Oprah has a special and it's called The State of Weight. And on this episode, she opens up the discussion about using these diabetic medications to lose weight and invites on doctors and experts to discuss this very academically. And we had some people from our community even be on and talk about food noise. And it, for people who love Oprah like me, was magical. It felt like we were getting somewhere, like we were doing something and things might actually change and there may be more access for people and more acceptance of us treating our disease. We started having meetups. I think our first one was in Nashville and I think maybe 100 of us or so of the creators and some people even that didn't create all got together, had a meal and spent a weekend and that was also magical. Overstimulating, but magical. Think about meeting people in person that have changed your lives all at one time. It's insane. After The Color Purple comes out, Oprah makes an announcement. She is both on a GLP-1 and admits that she's taking it for maintenance reasons. I think this was in a People article. And then says that she has given away her shares in Weight Watchers to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And in this episode, she digs deeper. She has several creators from our community on that show. You know what? Pause here and go watch it. Especially Amy Ann Half. Sincerely. Now, I will tell you that the media, for the most part, was ripping creators on this app apart for helping people with their side effects on lives and giving medical advice and telling people where to get bootleg copies of GLP-1s. Primarily bullshit, in my opinion. But some people were getting positive attention for their miraculous weight loss results in the media. And we all hoped that it would balance out. Now, back to this thing called compound. Honestly, that's what a lot of people were taking because the shortage was so bad of all the GLP-1 medications. And also because people could afford a few $100s and not afford $1,000+ a month. But everybody wanted to know where it was coming from and what was safe and if it was safe. But honestly, there were not any doctors talking about what equaled safe. So I put out a call and asked doctors to please come as obesity specialists, that I felt that they had an obligation, a responsibility to tell us what equals safer, so we know what we're taking and where we can go that we're probably not going to get hurt. Because at the end of the day, if people can't get their life-changing medications, they are going to take stupid risk because nobody wants to be sick again. It's not about being skinny again. It's about being sick. There's an episode of the podcast about this. It's season 1. It's about compound semaglutide and compound tirzepatide. Save this. Go watch it. Ultimately, there are 2 different kinds of compound pharmacies that you want to be able to get your compound from. And they're 503A and 503B, and they're under the care of a doctor with a prescription. And because of the cost of these medications, a lot of people are taking research-grade peptides. They're getting them with Groupons or whatever on the internet coming from God knows where. And God knows what's in them because they are not regulated at all. But people are willing to take that risk. Why do you think that is? If it's just about appetite suppression, if it's just about eating less and moving more, why would people risk their lives taking compounded medication from peptide companies overseas when they don't know where it's from? Because they're desperate. Because they're sick and they're desperate and they're forgotten and they're lost. That's why. More and more telehealth started coming on TikTok, and more creators started signing with telehealths and kind of repping for them. And during this time, people started being like, maybe we should hold like creators accountable in the same way that we would hold like a pharma rep accountable. Maybe they shouldn't be making money, right? Doing this as an affiliate marketer, which is what it is, okay? And like maybe there's some issues involved there. Like people would say, is it ethical? That kind of stuff. Are they being paid correctly if they're being paid at all? I'd say that's still going on. People trying to decide. And for sure, supplements were going crazy. Like the Nature's Ozempic was everywhere on TikTok. And TikTok Shop was even allowing people to say it. Even though there are regulations, even though there's community guidelines around that. It was getting by if it went viral because they care about money. So we're into 2024 and Oprah decides to partner with Weight Watchers and do another special that's very long actually and on the YouTube channel Partner. Many of us didn't like this. Many of us would like for them to no longer be a part of the conversation. Oprah handled it very well. I should have just trusted her. Okay, that's all bye. The most important part of that episode was the end, when the endocrinologist says to Oprah, when she's asking, why does that person not gain weight when they eat a cookie before bed and I do? And she said, because you will survive a famine. It's insulin resistance. Oprah, I'm going to need you to touch on that on your podcast that you've got out right now. Okay, thank you, bye. Regardless, it was a good extension of the conversation, and she handled it like a pro, of course. Now, around this time, TikTok puts new guidelines in place around creators that are in the weight loss space. They say we can no longer talk about these medications, and we don't know if we have to delete all of our videos, if it's going to automatically ban us like it did that summer in July, remember? And us OGs, right, we've been making content since summer of 2022. Should we make them private? Should we delete them? The date was fast approaching. They gave us a month to figure out our shit, but wouldn't give us any more details. Then we couldn't talk about weight loss, and we definitely wouldn't be put on the For You feed. if we did.